Get up, get up, get up, get up. It's Tuesday. The time is now 8 a.m. Central on a Tuesday, and it is once again time for Tea Talk Tuesday. I am T. Carter. I am the creator of Tea Talk Tuesday, and Tea Talk Tuesday was created to encourage, edify, and empower. We are at the end of June, and so we're going to go ahead and close out our June series. It's behind me. Today, according to in part Philippians 3:13, which says, forgetting those things which are behind, period. And so what we've been talking about this month is that how we just need to forget, to let go, to release the things that we've come out of but are still being plagued by, to release them so that we're prepared to move forward. And I do want to thank you, whether you're watching live or watching the replay. We don't take it lightly that you're taking time on your Tuesday, whatever day you may be watching this, to just come in and get some encouragement, excuse me. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right into week 4. And we're going to title this one, You've Been in This Place Long Enough. That's enough. That's it. I've been here long enough. My time in this place has expired. And the scripture reference for this week is going to be Deuteronomy 1, verses 6 through 8. And as we always do, we'll give some backstory. And so the words "you've been in this place long enough," they're actually found in Deuteronomy 1 and 6. And these are the words that Moses spake to the people of Israel on the side of the Jordan and the river. Because at this point, Israel was camped in the Great Plains of Moab, and they were able to see across the Jordan into the promised land. This was the land of Canaan that God had promised them, but they had not occupied for 400 years. And Proverbs 13 and 12 tells me that hope deferred makes my heart sick, but when the desire comes, it is a tree of life. Because see, at this point, the children of Israel had overcame the captivity of Egypt. They had endured the wilderness, but they had still not obtained the promise. My journey has been long and difficult, and I've been stuck in this place because of my unbelief. Because when God told me to go 40 years ago, I didn't believe that I could possess the land. I had been in captivity for 400 years, and I still had a slave mentality. I wasn't able to possess the land because I didn't think I was worth it. I didn't think that I deserved it, that it really belonged to me. And as a result, I decided to stay in the wilderness because I didn't have to fight and I didn't have to contend with people who were bigger than me, people who were stronger than me, and people who were already in the land. I just wanted to keep my peace and enjoy my freedom because God brought me out of Egypt, and shouldn't I be satisfied with that? Like, I really don't want to be greedy, and I didn't want anyone to think that I was just in it for the money. So I didn't pursue the promise, and I decided to set up camp in a temporary place and just dwell there. And even though it wasn't the will of God for my life, God still protected me and He provided for me in the wilderness because He knew that even though I left Egypt, the impact of Egypt was still in me. I changed my location, but I didn't change my mindset. I was still influenced by the oppression, by the harsh labor, by the unfair treatment, by the laughs and the looks. See, I was no longer in Egypt, but the truth is, Egypt was still in me. But now I'm located physically on the side of the Jordan and the wilderness, but I'm able to see across into Canaan. I'm able to see my promised land. I can see what God promised me, even though I haven't obtained it yet. Every time I look up, I can see it. I'm closer than I've ever been, but I'm still in the wilderness. And it is at this point that God begins to instruct Moses, and he begins to prepare the people of Israel to embrace their true identity. And one of the definitions of Deuteronomy is the second law, because the majority of the people who heard the law that Moses was given in Mount Sinai are now dead. Anyone in this current camp who was at Mount Sinai, with the exception of Moses, Joshua, Caleb, they likely would have been a child. But now it's time for me to become acquainted with the law for myself. See, I've heard about it through others, but if I'm going to possess the land, I have to embrace the boundaries that God has established. Moses was instructed to teach the children of Israel in order to prepare them to enter the promise that he knew that he would never possess. But Moses was so passionate about his assignment because he knew that this was the generation that could break the cycle, that this was the generation that can actually go in and possess the promised land. It was important for this generation to be built up on faith so they didn't wander in the wilderness. It was important for them to seek after God wholeheartedly so that they would be able to maintain their promise once they obtained it. It was important important for this generation to understand that God's law and his covenant will work for them if they obeyed, but against them if they rebelled. See, the book of Deuteronomy is a book that reminds us and it prepares us. The fact that I can see the promised land doesn't mean that I'm ready to enter it. Just because I'm on the verge of breakthrough, it doesn't mean that I don't have to prepare. I've been fighting for a long time, but this next fight is going to test everything in me, everything that I know and everything that I believe. Because in order to obtain something I've never had, I have to do something I've never done. And it won't be easy, but it will be worth it. But I've come too far to turn around now. I'm not just going to let my promise go. I'm going to obtain this promise, or I'm going to die trying. But I'm not talking about a physical death. I'm going to go ahead and die to my flesh. I'm going to go ahead and die to my mindset. I'm going to put my fears to death, because 1 John 4:18 tells me that there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. I've decided it's time to put my anxiety to death, because Philippians 4:6-7 tells me to be anxious for nothing, but in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let my request be known unto God. I'm going to go ahead and put my doubt to death, because Matthew 21:22 tells me this: if I have faith and do not doubt, I will be able to do the things that Jesus did and even more. The book of Deuteronomy is the book that Jesus quoted when he was tempted by the devil in the wilderness. When tempted to turn the bread into stone, Jesus answered, saying, according to Deuteronomy 8:3, that man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. When tempted to just go ahead and demonstrate himself as Jesus before it was time, Jesus quoted Deuteronomy 6:16 that says, you should not tempt the Lord your God. And when tempted to shortcut the cross and bow down and worship the devil, Jesus answered Satan with Deuteronomy 6:13, say, you shall fear the Lord your God and serve him only. But see, I have to know that God has positioned me. I'm closer to the promise that I've ever been before. And now he's preparing me, because I'm about to obtain it. But I can't give up in this season just because it's hard, and just because I'm going through things that I've never gone through before. It doesn't mean that God is with me. The truth is, God is right beside me, and he's pushing me into my promise. See, I'm not concerned about the obstacles, because God is with me. I'm not concerned about the giants, because God is with me. I understand that I may not be qualified, but God is with me. Yes, I've made some mistakes, but God is with me. I don't always have the right words, but God is with me. Sometimes my temper gets the best of me, but God is still with me. Sometimes my sin overtakes me, but God is with me. And I understand that I will possess the land because God is with me. I'm not doing this in my own strength. I'm doing this in the strength of the Lord, because God is with me. And so now the children of Israel, they find themselves back at Kadesh Barnea. See, it was an 11-day journey from Mount Horeb to this place, but it took me 40 years to get back to this place. See, this is the place where I rebelled. This is the place where I refused to go forward, because I believed the report of the spies who told me that I wasn't able, that I wasn't qualified, that the giants would overtake me, and that there was no way that I will possess the land. I heeded their advice because I didn't know who I was. I heeded their advice because I didn't know what was in me. I heeded their advice because I really didn't believe that it was possible. But something happened to me in the wilderness. Something happened to me when I had to keep moving from place to place. Something broke in me when I had to wear the same clothes and eat the same food over and over again for 40 years. I'm not bitter because God kept me. I'm grateful because he sustained me. I've been wandering in the wilderness, and my mind has been wandering. I've been frustrated in the wilderness, but this is the path that I chose. While I've been walking, my faith has been working. I've been praying for another chance, for another opportunity. I've been crying out to God, and now he's responding to me. Because verse 6, Deuteronomy 1:6 says this. He says, you've been in this place long enough. It's time to move on. God didn't bring me out of Egypt to let me die in the wilderness. It's time for me to go ahead and possess my land. I have to prepare for the journey, because my time in the wilderness is coming to an end. This next season will be unlike any season that I've experienced before. That's why God had to remove the reproach of my past. That's why I had to make the decision to forget the things which are behind mind, because salt and sugar look the same, but when they're tested, we understand that they're not the same. I'm not going to be deceived, and I'm not going to be discouraged. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to be weary, and I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to try to figure out what God has already worked out. I'm going to keep moving forward. But I understand that in order to win, I must prepare for the impossible, because with God, no thing is impossible. And so, according to Habakkuk 2:3, it says the vision waits for an appointed time, but in the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it's surely going to come to pass. It's not going to tarry. And so what I must understand is the vision has waited the appointed time, and I've decided to decree that this is my appointed time, and the vision is about to speak. And what God told me, it is the truth. It is not a lie. And so I don't have to worry, because they won't be able to deceive me this time, and they won't be able to manipulate you this time, and they won't be able to siphon our oil this time, because I've decided to forget the things which are behind, to let go of the hurt and to let go of the disappointment, because I understand that there will be glory after this, and it's about to spring forth suddenly. And if you look up the definition of suddenly, it's defined as quickly and unexpectedly, because what I know is that this thing is about to turn around. My body is about to be healed. My peace is about to be restored. My joy is about to be my portion. I'm about to sleep at night. The burden is about to be removed from my shoulders. I'm about to go from being overlooked to being looked for. See, in the one moment, this thing is about to shift. This thing is about to change. Because if we go back to the story of Elisha and Elijah, they were walking. And even though Elijah said, hey, this is what was about to happen, there was no indication of what was about to happen. But all of a sudden, the Bible says that suddenly a chariot of fire and horses appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind, but his cloak fell on Elisha. Because I was in position, because I stayed committed to my assignment, because I remained faithful, it's about to fall on me. See, that what I must understand is everything that I went through, it was preparation for this moment. It may not have felt good, and I may not have wanted to go through it, and I may have had to cry, and I may have thought that I was going to lose my mind, and that thing didn't work out the way that I thought, and people broke my heart, and nobody understood the pain that was on the inside of me. But now that I'm on the other side of that thing, I understand that the wilderness was necessary. Yes, I came out of Egypt, but there was still work for me to do. But I got upset because I thought when I came out of Egypt, everything would be easy, and I would just have to walk in, and I wouldn't have to fight no more. But in the wilderness, God showed himself faithful. In the wilderness, I learned that God would sustain me. In the wilderness, I learned that he would keep me. In the wilderness, I learned to trust him for what I needed. And so now that I'm able to see my promised land, I'm able to go through my process of the wilderness. And now I understand that I can trust God because he was faithful. He was faithful in the wilderness. He didn't let my clothes wear out. He kept feeding me with manna. And the same God that fed me in the wilderness will position me in my promised land. And so now I don't care about the giants, because I know that this is my set time. I understand that I'm gonna have to fight, and that's fine. I didn't come here for a fight, but if a fight is what you want, then a fight is what you get, because I understand that this is the appointed time, and this is the appointed season, and the only thing that can stop me from entering into the promised land is me. No matter what boundary comes against me, no matter what obstacle comes before me, as long as I stay focused, as long as I forget the things which are behind, and I press forward, I press past the pain, and I press past the anxiety, and I press past the fear, and I press past how I feel, and I press past what I think, and I just keep pressing, because in this season, I'm going to apply pressure. I'm going to keep on applying pressure until I get to where God told me to be, because when I was here before, I let that thing go because I didn't want to fight. I let that thing go because the giants were bigger than me. And I said, nah, I understand that grace bigger than my hand, and the land is flowing with milk and honey, and all that sounds real good, but I ain't trying to fight these giants. I ain't trying to walk this path out. I ain't trying to deal with that. And so I forfeited my promise in order to be comfortable. But after I kept walking around for 40 years and I wasn't settled, and I had to pitch a tent here and pitch a tent there, and I had to watch my loved ones die, and we still in the wilderness, and I don't have increase, and I don't have abundance, but God is sustaining me, and yes, I'm grateful, but I know there's more. Yes, I'm grateful, but I know there's more, God, but I know that I forfeited it. And so in the wilderness, I was just praying, God, if you give me one more chance, I'm going to do right this time. If you give me another opportunity, I'm going to go ahead and do what you said. And so now that I've come back to this place, and God has said to me, that's enough. I'm done all your days of crying. You've been in this place long enough. Your body being sick. You've been in this place long enough. You robbing Peter to pay Paul. You've been in this place long enough. Your children acting crazy. You've been in this place long enough. Your mind ain't settled. You've been in this place long enough. That's enough. We're going to draw a line in the sand. It's time for us to move forward. And it's time for us to go in and possess the land. And when I understand that God himself decreed that that's enough, then I decided to agree with God and say, God, if you said that's enough, then I say that's enough. So I ain't ready, but I may not feel like I'm ready. I may not feel like I'm qualified. I may not feel like I have everything that I need. The money that I'm believing for ain't come in yet. But God, you said that's enough, and it's time to go. And nevertheless, at your word, no matter how I feel, no matter if I'm scared, no matter if I don't know how they're going to respond, God, nevertheless, at your word, I'm going to do what you said because you did it, because you said it. I'm going to move forward because that's what you called me to do. I'm going to go ahead and put a demand on the gifts that you put on the inside of me, and I'm going to go ahead and say that that's enough. I'm not crying no more. That's enough. They're not going to manipulate me no more. That's enough. I'm not going to have my head bound down no more. That's enough. I'm not going to be depressed no more. That's enough. I know all this stuff that I'm going through, and it seems like I'm in the cycle and I can't get out. But the truth is, that's enough, because God said that's enough. And when I get sick and tired of getting sick and tired, then I just go ahead and do what God said. And I'm tired. I'm tired of going through. The truth is, it's going to hurt for me to leave, and it's going to hurt for me to stay. So I'm going to go ahead and go through my process. I'm crying now in this situation, and I'm going to cry coming out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go through my process, because at least when I break the cycle, then the cycle is ended, and I'm not going to be in the same place next year. I'm not going to be dealing with the same thing next year. I'm not going to keep going round and round and not coming out and then crying out to God because of a choice I made to stay here. No, God, if you say that's enough, then I say that's enough. I'm ready to move forward. I understand I've been in this place long enough. I done did the work, and I've been processed. I forgot the things that were behind. I forgot about the pain of Egypt and the manipulation and how they talked about me, and they took my identity away and made me feel like I wasn't worth it. I didn't forget about all that. I didn't forget about the frustration of the wilderness because I didn't have enough, but you sustained me in the midst of it. I didn't forget about all that. God, now I'm focused on my promised land. I'm ready to move forward, and I understand that nobody else has obtained it, but if you said it's for me, God, I believe that it's for me, God, and I'm going to walk into what you called me into. And so I just want to encourage you today, according to Deuteronomy 1:6, that you've been in this place long enough. You've been dealing with this thing long enough. You've been going back and forth with that person long enough. That's enough. The Lord says that you've been in this place long enough, and it's time for us to go. It's time for us to move forward. And my place may not be your place, but there's a place that we become comfortable and we become complacent, and we've learned how to make do with what's less than what God promised us. But in this season, the word of the Lord is, that's enough. You've been in this place long enough. You've been dealing with their foolishness long enough. You've been crying in the midnight hour long enough. You've been robbing Peter to pay Paul long enough. Your heart has been broken long enough. Your mind has been scattered long enough. that's enough. And so we just want to encourage you that if God is calling you to move forward, to go ahead and move forward, not to be like the children of Israel the first time they had the opportunity to enter into the promised land, and they believed the report of spies who didn't have the faith, who didn't understand the promise, who didn't understand who God was, and allowed their words to penetrate me. And I believed them, and I chose not to believe God. But now that I've been in this place again, God, now that you brought me full circle, now that you understand that I understand that the promised land is still there, and I'm overdue because I should have been in there 40 years ago. God, now that you've given me another opportunity, I'm going to move forward because I understand that I've been in the wilderness long enough. I've been in a dry place long enough. I've been in a place that's below the promise long enough. And God, now that you said that's enough and you confirmed how I'm feeling, that I'm just going to move forward and walk into what you called me into. And so that is your encouragement for this Tuesday, June 27th. I think, I don't even know what the day is, but yeah, June 27th, 2023. That is your encouragement. We have closed out our June series, but forgetting those things which are behind. That's it. We're done. And we are going to move forward for July. I'm going to go ahead and release the July. So in July, for the month of July, we're going to talk about This Means War. This means war. And the scripture is going to be Matthew 12:30 that says, if you're not on my side, you're against me. And if you don't gather in the harvest with me, you scatter it. That's it. It said, this means war. I'm going after what God gave me. And I didn't come here for a fight, but if a fight is what you want, then a fight is what you sure enough gonna get in this season. I'm not going to let the devil deter me, and I'm not going to let people talk me out of what God has said. And so if I have to fight and to enter into the promise, because we just talked about Deuteronomy 1:6, and God told them that they've been in that place long enough, but in order for them to obtain the promise, they still had to fight the battle of Jericho, and there was still opposition that they had to overcome in order to obtain it. And what I've decided in this season is that my promise is worth it. My promise is worth the problem. My promise is worth it all. And so if I have to fight in order to obtain the promise, then let's go ahead and square up, because that's exactly what we're going to do. So we encourage you to join us in July for our series, This Means War. The first Tuesday, I believe, is the 4th of July, but we're still going to be here, and we're going to do what God said. If you believe that this word will be an encouragement for anyone else, we do encourage you to like, comment, and share. And I want to continue to encourage you now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that works in you. So let the power of God work in you, and let God do what only he can do through you. I love y'all. Y'all gonna have a great Tuesday, rest of your week. We will see y'all next Tuesday, same time, same place.